Title: The night soldiers came for Ibrahim Traoré. What makes powerful men fear a young soldier with truth in his heart? Watch to the end, cause the final twist will leave you speechless. It was past midnight in Ouagadougou. The city slept, but Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not. He sat in the war room of the presidential villa, staring at a single piece of paper, a secret report marked, "Eyes Only." What he had just read could shake the whole of Africa. Gold, arms, hidden oil deals. And worst of all, names. Names of African leaders, businessmen, and even close allies working with outsiders to keep the continent poor. Suddenly, the CCTV monitors blinked, static. A signal jam. His fingers moved quickly. He tapped into the backup system. Cameras still showed the gates. But something wasn't right. 3 army trucks. No insignias. No official orders. He grabbed his radio. Silence. Traoré stood up slowly, calm but alert. He was not just a soldier anymore, he was the head of state. Every step now could change everything. Suddenly, the villa lights cut out. Power gone. But his instincts stayed sharp. He moved to the safe room. From there, he watched soldiers in black uniforms, fully armed, entering the compound. His own men? No. These were not regular guards. They were too fast, too silent. A voice came through a private line. "Ibrahim, don't fight. You've been warned before. Hand over the files." It was someone close. Someone from his inner circle. He didn't answer. He turned off the mic. As footsteps approached, Ibrahim Traoré whispered to himself, "So it begins." He picked up his weapon, opened the secret door behind his office, and disappeared into the dark, but not without the flash drive. The night swallowed Ibrahim Traoré as he moved through the narrow tunnel behind his office. It was dusty, cold, and silent, a forgotten passage built during colonial times. Only 3 people knew about it. Or so he thought. In his left pocket, the flash drive bumped gently against his leg with every step. Inside it were documents, voice recordings, and secret letters. Deals signed behind closed doors. Weapons sent to enemies. Gold exported without the people's knowledge. It was enough to start a storm. But one file stood out, Project Ember. He hadn't even opened it yet. At the end of the tunnel, he pushed open a steel hatch that led to an abandoned government garage. A dusty old Land Cruiser waited there. One of the guards he still trusted, Kadidiatu, stood beside it, holding a phone. "You're late," she whispered. "They're already inside," he replied, tossing her the flash drive. "Hide this. If anything happens to me, send it to Mali and Ghana. And delete the copy from my server." She nodded, but her eyes were shaking. As they drove off into the city night, Ibrahim stared out the window. The people were still sleeping, unaware their leader had almost been taken out by his own men. And worse, he knew who was behind it. General Sebgo, his former mentor. The same man who helped him rise to power. The same man who now wanted him dead. But why? Back at the villa, gunfire broke out. 2 loyal guards refused to open a door. They were shot. Inside the attacker's radio, one cold message kept repeating. "We must get that flash drive by dawn." Before he became president, Ibrahim Traoré had only one real teacher in the army, General Sebgo, a tall, fat, quiet man with eyes that never smiled. Sebgo taught him to survive, to read danger before it came, and to trust no one fully. Now, that same man was trying to destroy him. In a secret apartment on the edge of Ouagadougou, Ibrahim sat on the floor, his boots still dusty from the tunnel escape. Kadidiatu handed him tea, but he barely touched it. "How deep is this, really?" she asked. Ibrahim stared at the floor. Sebgo was never loyal to Burkina Faso. He was loyal to something else. Something bigger. What do you mean? He pulled out a small folded paper from his wallet. It was a list of names, ministers, soldiers, foreign businessmen, and beside each name, one word. Approved or eliminated. Sebgo is part of a secret network, Ibrahim said. They pick African leaders. They control resources, gold, land, even presidents. Anyone who doesn't obey, vanishes. Kadidiatu leaned back. You were next. Yes, he said quietly. But I didn't vanish. Meanwhile, in a luxury hotel across the city, General Sebgo sipped champagne. His phone rang. It was one of the black uniformed captains. We lost him. He escaped. Sebgo smiled. No. He's doing exactly what I expected. Now he'll go to the African leaders he thinks he can trust. And that's when he'll really be alone. Sebgo wasn't just hunting Traoré. He was laying a trap, one that started years ago. Because Traoré's rise to power was not an accident. It was part of a plan. Ibrahim Traoré had always believed he rose to power because of the people's cry for freedom, and his courage to answer it. But now, as the pieces came together, he saw something darker beneath it all. His mind raced as the car sped toward a safe house outside the city. What if I was never in control, he muttered to himself. Kadidiatu looked over. What did you say? Ibrahim shook his head slowly. General Sebgo trained me. He supported me during the uprising. He made sure I rose fast. Too fast. Kadidiatu's eyes widened. You think he planned for you to take over? Yes. He needed someone young. Someone the people would trust. Someone who would open the right doors and never suspect he was being watched. Suddenly, the car's engine sputtered. What's happening? She asked. The car stopped. Silence. Then, a click. A tracker. Hidden under the dashboard. We've been followed, Ibrahim said calmly. He opened the door, scanning the dark road. No lights. No engines. Until 3 quick flashes in the far bush. A signal. Kadidiatu grabbed her pistol. They're here. But Ibrahim wasn't scared. He reached into his jacket and pulled out something unexpected, another flash drive. What's that? She whispered. The real one, he said. The other was a test. And Sebgo failed it. A shot rang out. They ducked. Voices shouted in the bush. But Ibrahim had already slipped into the trees. Because this wasn't just an escape. It was part of his counter-trap. Back at Sebgo's command post, an officer rushed in. General, the drive was fake. And Traoré, he knew. Sebgo's eyes turned cold. Then the real war begins now. General Sebgo stood at the balcony of the military guest house, his hands behind his back. Below, soldiers moved with quiet discipline. They had failed to capture Traoré, and now the game was changing. But Sebgo wasn't worried, not yet. He turned back inside and unlocked a hidden safe behind a wall painting. Inside were files, old and worn, marked Cobalt, Niger, Rare Earths, Sahel, and one that read simply, STC, Special Trade Contract. He pulled out the last one. Inside was a copy of a deal signed years ago. A secret agreement between certain West African generals and foreign companies. In exchange for weapons, support, and secret funds, these men allowed outside forces to take natural resources without the people knowing. Traoré had once witnessed Sebgo in a meeting with one of these agents, a sharp-suited European man who offered to manage the gold mines quietly in exchange for political protection. But Traoré had refused the offer. That's when Sebgo knew the boy was dangerous. Back in the forest, Ibrahim hid under a thick bush. He had already sent a coded message through a hidden channel to 2 other African leaders, ones he hoped he could still trust. President Bamba of Mali. Awaken of Nigeria. If they responded, he would have support. But he didn't know, one of them had already sold him out. Sebgo picked up his phone and smiled. "I told you he would run to you," he said to the voice on the line. "Now give him hope, and when he comes out, we finish this." Hope is a dangerous weapon. And betrayal always hides in plain sight. By morning, the city of Ouagadougou looked normal, schoolchildren laughed on dusty roads, taxis honked, and traders shouted prices in the market. But behind this peace, the air was tense. Something was moving in the shadows, and only a few people knew it. Ibrahim Traoré hid in an old safehouse deep in the outskirts. His clothes were dirty, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had received one reply to his secret message. From President Bamba of Mali. It read, "We hear you. Meet me at the border. Come alone." It felt right. Bamba had always spoken boldly about African unity. They'd even trained together once. But something about the message felt too easy. Kadidiatu watched him pack his bag. "You're really going?" "I have to. If he's with us, we can stop Sebgo. And if he's not?" Ibrahim zipped the bag. "Then I will know who I can trust, and who I can't." Far away, in a quiet room in Bamako, President Bamba sat with his advisors. On his desk was a phone, still warm from a call with Sebgo. "You promised protection for my family," Bamba said into the phone. "I gave you Traoré's location. Don't fail me." Sebgo's voice replied calmly, "We never fail when the money is good." But what neither of them knew was that General Awaken of Nigeria had also seen the flash drive, and he had recorded everything. Traoré was not just running. He was watching. He had planted a trace on the fake drive, and every man who touched it revealed himself. The real trap was now in play. The Burkina-Mali border was quiet that evening. Too quiet. Ibrahim Traoré arrived on a borrowed motorcycle, wearing a hooded jacket and sunglasses. The border post looked empty, except for 2 men in black standing near a white SUV. One waved a green flag, the old signal for safe passage. Still, Ibrahim didn't relax. His instincts whispered, "This is a setup." He stopped the bike a few meters away. The air felt strange. Not hot, not cold, just tense. Suddenly, the SUV's door opened. President Bamba stepped out, smiling. "You came, brother." Traoré looked him in the eye. "Did I have a choice?" Bamba stepped forward slowly. "We need to act fast. Sebgo wants to turn us against each other. But we can fight this." Boom. A sharp blast tore through the ground. Sand flew. The SUV exploded in flames. Traoré dropped to the floor, rolling behind a rock. Snipers opened fire from both sides. Ambush. The men in black were not Bamba's. They were Sebgo's special unit, the Jackals, highly trained, cold, and loyal only to money. From the smoke, Bamba crawled, wounded. It wasn't supposed to go this way. But Traoré wasn't looking at him. His eyes were on a drone in the sky, one that he had planted earlier. From a hidden control center in Ghana, Awaken watched the live feed, recording every second. He spoke into his recorder. Traoré walked into an ambush, but he knew. He came prepared. This footage will expose them all. As helicopters approached, Traoré grabbed Bamba and disappeared into the bush. They thought he'd die at the border. They were wrong. By midnight, Ibrahim Traoré was deep in the woods with an injured President Bamba beside him. Blood soaked through Bamba's sleeve. He winced, gripping his shoulder. "I didn't want to betray you," Bamba whispered. "They said they'd kill my family." Ibrahim said nothing at first. He tied Bamba's wound and handed him water. "Now you know what they really are." Meanwhile, far away in Accra, Olokong of Nigeria was working with a team of independent media hackers. They had just received a file from Ibrahim, footage from the drone at the border ambush, plus audio clips from the fake flash drive. At 6 a.m., African screens lit up. From radios in remote villages to plasma TVs in luxury apartments, the same message played. "This is President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. What you are about to see is the truth. The names you hear, they betrayed us all." Then came the video. General Sebgo talking to foreign agents. Secret deals. Payments made in diamonds and gold. Orders given to eliminate leaders who said no. Even the moment President Bamba gave away Traoré's location. Shock spread across the continent. In Ghana, students took to the streets, chanting, "No more puppets." In Senegal, a military base turned on its general. In Nigeria, Akon called a secret summit of trusted commanders. Back in Burkina Faso, Sebgo watched the screen in disbelief. His hand trembled. How did he? Before he could finish, alarms went off in his compound. Loyalist soldiers were switching sides. Across Africa, people asked one question. Is this the start of Africa's real freedom? But Ibrahim knew the fight wasn't over. Because Sebgo still had one move left. In the heart of Ouagadougou, the presidential palace buzzed with confusion. Some soldiers were taking off their uniforms. Others stood frozen, unsure who to obey. The broadcast had shaken everyone, friends, enemies, even neutral generals. But deep inside a hidden military base, General Sebgo was not done. Seal all borders, he barked. Shut down the internet. Find Traoré. Dead or alive. His face was pale. His empire of secrets had crumbled in hours. But Sebgo had planned for this day. He opened a locked case. Inside was a blood-red folder labeled, Coup Protocol Z. This was his last card. If he couldn't control Burkina Faso with power, he'd destroy it from within. Divide the country. Spread fake news. Turn the people against themselves. Then rise again as the savior. We launched the fake rebellion tonight, he said. Burn a village. Blame Traoré. But as he gave the orders, he didn't know that Ibrahim was already ahead of him. Back in the bush, Traoré spoke into a secure satellite phone. It's time, he said. Let the people see the truth again, live. Olokong, waiting in Nigeria, nodded and pushed a button. Across Africa, phones buzzed again. A second video began to play live footage of Sebgo giving orders for a fake rebellion. People gasped. Anger turned to rage. Traoré's voice followed. They wanted to divide us. They used fear and lies. But today, Africa chooses truth. In less than 2 hours, young soldiers marched into Sebgo's base. This time, they were not afraid. Sebgo reached for his pistol, but it was too late. The very army he built had turned on him. And Ibrahim? He didn't return to the palace. He had one more thing to do. The sky above Ouagadougou turned gold as dawn approached. Birds sang, unaware that a war in the shadows had just ended. Sebgo had been arrested. His files exposed. His network broken. Across Africa, the people celebrated. But Ibrahim Traoré did not smile yet. He stood alone by an old mango tree on the outskirts of the city. In his hands was a small box, plain, wooden, and locked. It had been hidden in Sebgo's bunker. But it didn't contain weapons or money. It held something far more dangerous. Inside were letters, handwritten, signed in blood, marked with strange symbols. Agreements with foreign forces. Pledges to secret brotherhoods. Names of African leaders still playing both sides. And at the bottom, a single photo. A young Ibrahim, just a soldier, shaking hands with a masked man. His heart stopped. The date on the photo was 1 week before the first uprising, the very moment his rise began. Ibrahim realized something painful. He had been chosen long ago. Not just trained. Not just watched. Used. Even his original rise to power had been allowed, planned by enemies who believed he'd one day be controlled. But they were wrong. He had broken free. Still, the guilt ran deep. He opened a matchbox, lit the letters on fire, and whispered. "You won't control me. Not now. Not ever again." As the flames rose, Khedidiatu approached from behind. "The people are waiting. What should we tell them?" Ibrahim turned to the horizon. "Tell them this is not the end. We've only just begun." And as the sun rose over Burkina Faso, one truth stood clear. Africa was waking up. But in a cold office far away, a hidden voice whispered. "Now we move to phase 2. To be continued."